Good afternoon, Earth Animals. I'm Dr. Chris. This is the Ask Our Vet series live from the Earth Animal Studios. Hey Mel, how are you? Week 26 of our Ask Our Vet series. We open with a little Dance the Night Away by Van Halen. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen, who passed away this week, unfortunately. Certainly, Eddie, right? Yeah, certainly a sad day for people of my age. Brings back a lot of childhood memories, and a really talented guitar player that passed away too soon. So I thought our music should definitely be a tribute today to him and Van Halen. So we'll likely also go out with some Van Halen today. I hope everyone. Hey Michael, thanks for tuning in. Thank you. And again, welcome to the Ask Our Vet series. We missed last week, unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, but we're back this week, and I'm really happy. I hope everyone, like I said, is having a good week, staying healthy. I think, as we do every week, happy birthday to you, Stephanie. I think we're old now, Steph, officially. Anyway, so I think we'll make the COVID update relatively short this week, only because I think we're all being inundated with it. Obviously with the president and the first lady contracting it, it's just really even ramped up in the news, and anybody that's watched last night's debate saw it become forefront. We continue to have nationally 300,000 roughly new cases a week. We knew there'd be an uptick while we're kind of phasing back into whatever our new normal is going to be for the next, until we have a vaccine, or for the next year, whatever that is. So we just have to continue to social distance and wear masks, right? I think that's the lesson for us all. So again, I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on that. Everybody knows, and everybody's being inundated by it. So good topic today, right? I think something that we've talked about, a few weeks ago, or we discussed taking care of our mature pets, right? And part of that was talking about keeping them moving, and how, we got into a little bit about arthritis, and I thought it warranted its own subject. Okay, I thought its own week, because I think it's very. It's something that I see in my practice all the time. It's not just for our mature pets. Arthritis can happen at various ages in our pets' lives. So I think it's something we get into, and we can get a little more in depth in it. So I think it definitely warranted its own show. All right. Those of you who tune in know we do a Earth Animal of the Week. It can be a person or an animal. We're all animals, right? This week I thought we'd give an update on one of our little friends that I brought live in a few weeks ago. All right. Again, I think you guys will remember our little kitty who's growing, right? Say hi to everybody. Huh? That's nice. So he now is about 9-10 weeks. If you remember how sick he was when we first got him, remember when one of his eyes was almost shut and he was loaded with fleas and anemic, and now he's doing great. So I thought we could bring him in and report on it. Well, I know. Okay, no biting today on the show. But he is doing great, and he's really playful, and he's going to go to his home. He's going to go to his home this week. They're still working on names. I'm voting for Ed. I thought Ed would be a good one, right? Given this week. But besides being crazy, he's doing great. Doing great. I know. We can't bite right on the show today. All right. Go hang out in here for a minute. We'll bring you out in a little bit, okay? Here's your bunny. All right. So he absolutely, this poor little one was so sick. When we got him, someone had found him under a bush, and we took him in and we got the fleas off of him, and it's just a testament to how tough they are, because he really responded really well, and we're really attached to him. But he's going to a great home, And he's a little crazy person, aren't you? I know. Anyway. All right, let's talk about, let's see who's checking in. Yeah, Angel would be a good one, right? That's my vote, but I don't really have a vote in it, so we'll see. There's some other, they have probably want to name them themselves, and who can blame them, but all right. So let's talk arthritis in our pets. All us pet owners have, you know, if you own pets, you've owned pets in the past, you know that at some point you've had a pet with arthritis, sometimes advanced arthritis, right? Some of the literature it says that as much as 60% of dogs have radiographic evidence of arthritis at some point in their life, all right? And I would even say, and that's radiographic evidence, you know, I would say that percentage may be obviously higher. Arthritis happens in dogs and cats, okay? Obviously, larger dogs show more signs of it, all right? Because if you remember, you know, joints are just a function of the weight that are on them, right? So larger dogs have more clinical signs oftentimes, but it is something that can affect any of our companion animals, any size, any breed, any age, and we'll get to that, you know, in a little bit. Let's just see who else is checking in. Hey, Maureen. My Mackenzie is 18 and a half years old. He sure is. And he's doing well, right, Maureen? He's taking CBD oil in the morning and 1 gabapentin pill at night. After he's asleep, he tries to get back up. His left back leg is weak, and he has trouble walking. I rub it at the joint, and it seems to help him walk. Is there medication or therapy that can help him when this happens? He also has an old front leg injury that makes him stagger a bit. So, Maureen, we're going to get to that. I'm going to answer those questions as we go on in the in the show today. So I'll try to answer all parts of those as we go. And yeah, there is. And one of the things that hey Barbara, how are you? One of the things that I try to stress to people when we discuss this, when I discuss it with my clients, is that it's one of those conditions that we like to take a multi-tier approach to, and also oftentimes an integrative approach to it, okay? So combining different types of medicines and modalities, right? Because I think if you, he has, thank you, Good Fish, he does have his little fun bun with him, his little bunny that you got him, so he's got it. He's just a little, I was playing with him and got him a little wacky before the show. His temporary name is Snooshes, I understand that, but anyway, so, you know, arthritis can negatively affect the quality of life for obvious reasons. Pain, not being able to get around, not being able to do stairs, things like that. So it can affect him. And again, it can be young or old. Obviously, as animals age, as people age, you get inflammation in your joints and arthritis. But if they had, just as you said, Maureen, if they had a pre-existing injury or something young, they can get arthritis in that joint, in that leg, at any time. You know, if they have a pre-existing. Hi, Karen. Thanks for the lovely email, Karen. That was really, really nice. So it really affects animals of all ages. All right, and you know, one of the things I think that's important to talk about when we, you know, obviously, let's talk about what arthritis is, right? So arthritis, all the word arthritis means is inflammation in a joint, okay? Itises, all itises are inflammation. So, and there's a vast amount of reasons for that. But if you know if you kind of know the anatomy of a joint, right? And there's different types of joints, right? There's hinge joints, there's ball and socket joints, but the premise of a joint, the reason why a joint works the way it does is it needs to, you have two bones that come together, okay? And there's a capsule around them, all right? And whatever kind of joint, whether you have a knee and a hinge joint or a hip and a ball and socket joint, is you have a capsule around it, you have the ends of the bones that are in the joint are covered in cartilage. And then you have joint fluid in there. So you have lubricating fluid in there, and you have very smooth surfaces in these joints. And that makes a very happy medium inside, okay? Once those start to get disturbed, You get some destruction of cartilage, okay? You have an injury to some of the joint capsule or a ligament or a tendon or something associated. You start to get inflammation, and that starts to impact what the environment is like and sets up, you know, it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle, and you start to get a progressive disorder in that joint. And so what our approach is as veterinarians and pet owners is we want to obviously slow this down, okay? And we want to help repair as much as we can, okay? Once there's arthritis in joints, you can help it. It generally is not curable in a sense, with few exceptions, but you can help slow it down, and you can help try to improve what the entire little biome in that joint is, okay? Hey Candace, thank you for checking in. Thanks a lot, Candace. I hope you're having a great week too. So, we talked about a multi-tiered approach. So now we know what arthritis is, right? Inflammation in a joint. And what can we do about it, right? So the first line of defense that we often talk about is joint supplements. And I get questions all the time about, you know, when would you start joint supplements? What are the best joint supplements? What are in the joint supplements, and what do they do? And I think there are a lot of different joint supplements on the market, all right? And they include different things. So I thought we'd list some of the things that are in them, some of the things that are important parts of certain joint supplements and what they do, all right? Hey, Angelo, thanks for checking in from Jersey. Hope you're doing well. Hope the family's good. All right, so most of you know, most of my clients are very aware of glucosamine and chondroitin. Okay, glucosamine and chondroitin have been kind of the basis of most joint supplements for years and years and years. Okay, and so these kind of fall into there's a couple different categories of what they put in there. There are compounds that they put in there that are a normal part of the joint, or things that help build up the joint. And then there are anti-inflammatories. So what we're going to talk about first is some of the components that they put in these joint supplements that are a natural part of cartilage and joint fluid and that sort of thing that help try to replenish those in the body, okay? And glucosamine and chondroitin are two of those, all right? They are building blocks of cartilage, which again, as we said, are a very important part of the health of a joint, because that cartilage is very smooth and it's cushioning so that you don't have bone on bone. All right. When you start to lose that, you can start to get bone rubbing on bone, and then it speeds up. All right. So you have glucosamine, you have chondroitin. Both are part of the building blocks of the cartilage, okay? And so you're trying to replenish those to help it repair itself, slow down destruction of that cartilage in those joints, all right? Other parts of the hyaluronic acid you'll see in a lot of different joint supplements out there. And certainly, and that is a big component of the joint fluid. You'll see in people, they're actually doing injections, you know, of hyaluronic acid into joints when they have inflammatory conditions in their joints. And it's a natural substance, and it occurs naturally in the joints as part of the fluid. So now we have you're putting the building blocks of the cartilage in there, and you're also trying to add into and increase the joint fluid. So you're trying to reduce that inflammation that way, okay? Part of the kind of newer compounds that they're putting in there, eggshell membrane, right? Collagen, okay? So again, collagen, a big part of that cartilage in the joints. So these things are all trying to add into the building blocks and trying to make that cartilage as healthy and slow down destruction as they can, all right? And then we start to get into some of the compounds that actually are anti-inflammatory, okay? You'll see there's a lot of people taking it. and a lot of joint supplements have in it turmeric in different forms, right? And turmeric actually has I don't know if you've ever heard the part of the turmeric, a compound called curcumin, right? But it has anti-inflammatory effects. And I know there's a lot of people as well putting things like turmeric in their protein shakes and things that really swear by it. And certainly I've seen that as a part of these various products work well as well, okay? Then there's some other herbals, Boswellia, okay? It has acids in it that have anti-inflammatory effects, right? I don't know if you're familiar with devil's claw, but devil's claw is an herbal that also has been shown to have anti-inflammatory effects. So various compounds will also add in, so you have the anti-inflammatory part to match the help building of the cartilage of the joint fluid. All right, and then you get to things like omegas, right? And omegas come in various. You hear about them in fish oils. Obviously, things like the Earth Animal Health Nuggets, right? Great source of omegas, and omegas do a lot, all right, in the body. Obviously, skin, so many other things, but they also have anti-inflammatory effects. So they're a great part of a joint supplement, okay? Or even you have a joint supplement without them, and you add in your own like health nuggets, fish oils, that sort of thing, just to give them, because again, they're great for the body anyway, all right? The other thing, I guess, that you probably see on a lot of these labels is something called MSM, right? Very long word, methyl sulfonyl methane, okay? But MSM is a very potent anti-inflammatory, and they've done a lot of different studies with it on people that have shown that it is potent, and I do believe it does help as part of when I recommend supplements, I like MSM in it. I think it does work. All right, the other thing that the other part that actually will help, another compound that will help with various things, including liver health and cognition, as well as joints, is SAMe. You'll see that as well on some of these, or as an added supplement. It actually is naturally produced in our livers, and it does a lot of things in the body, but it does have some anti-inflammatory properties to it. So I think a lot of these things, as you see them, you'll see things like green lip mussel on right, and that is also that produce. You get glucosamine chondroitin out of that as well, but vitamin C, vitamin E, antioxidants. So that's another good one. So there's a lot of these things are always. You may not have them all in one, but as many of these as you can get in the supplement, I think, are important because they all do work synergistically, right? All right. Let's see. All right, let's see. Hey, D. Hi, Dr. Chris. Do you recommend preventative joint health shoes or only when needed? So, D, we were going to talk about that as well. When do you start them, right? And I think, honestly, it depends on breeds, it depends on weight, it depends on sporting dogs, how active they are. It's not a coincidence that a lot of the sporting breeds, okay, a lot of the sporting breed dogs have arthritis older because they're like an athlete, okay? So if you see, obviously you see in people that play sports, that go on to college and play sports and then go on, especially contact sports, right? And then go on to even play professional, though they have a lot of problems with their joints down the road because they've just been so active and injuries, right? So it is, if you have a young sporting dog that's very active, starting them on a joint supplement is a good idea. It absolutely cannot hurt them, and it can only help reduce inflammation on a daily basis while they're jumping off of stone walls and running around and fetching a ball and just, so in addition to, if you have if we have like the brachycephalic breeds, right, that tend to carry a little extra weight sometimes, and we're going to talk about weight as well as part of this. But then some of those dogs, that really a lot of, I've had bulldogs in the past and Frenchies, and one thing about their bone structure is that there's not a bone in their body that's really straight, right? There really isn't. And so there's a lot of stress on their elbows, on their wrists, because of the way they're built and how broad they are. And so those dogs also, it would not be a bad idea to have them on a joint supplement younger so they can help slow progression of these things, right? And certainly in those dogs, in brachycephalic dogs that tend to have some skin issues, things like obviously, the occasional wrinkle infection, D, and things like that, right? The fatty acid supplements are great too, because those actually help them with their skin as well. So you have the anti-inflammatory benefits, not only for the skin and things, but for the joints, all right? So I think that is, starting young in certain animals. Now, do you have to necessarily start in your small breeds, your teacup breeds that are, that are not super active, but and they're also light? You have to see. It's case by case, but you can always talk to your veterinarian about that, because I am a firm believer in starting these things at a younger age. And again, it's not only for the older animals, because if they have a pre-existing, you're welcome, Dave, if they have a pre-existing injury or issue, it can set up an arthritis. The other thing that we see in younger dogs that ultimately can cause arthritis is to set up younger is things that they're born with, right? Some animals have what's called elbow dysplasia, where they get a failure of their cartilage in their elbow, a certain point of their cartilage to ossify, and it breaks off to turn into bone, and it breaks off into their joint and causes the habitat in that joint to be very inflammatory. Okay, so those dogs may get arthritis is set up very young. Okay. Let's see, we'll take another question here. Michael, my 3-legged 12-year-old black lab is having difficulty standing up at various times through the day. NSAIDs have helped, and he's on CBD tabs and Movoflex. Seems like he's okay for now, but would you recommend getting a shoe boot type to help him stand on the hardwood floors? Any other ways to help him? We've reduced his diet a bit as well, though he keeps trying to get extra help in his wisdom. Yeah. So it is a good question, Michael. And one of the things that happens as these animals get older, okay, and obviously a 12-year-old black lab is, especially with 3 legs, they will have arthritis in most of their joints, okay? And what happens oftentimes is their back leg or legs, okay, will start to lose muscle mass. And oftentimes they lose muscle mass everywhere, but it oftentimes is more pronounced in their back legs, okay? So you'll start to see their quadricep muscles that were always these kind of muscular muscles start to get thin, okay? So they call it muscle wasting. And what happens because of that is when they start to slip on a floor, because they don't have those muscles aren't built up like they used to, they can't right themselves right away, and they oftentimes will slip out, okay? And hey, Geraldine, thanks for tuning in. So they'll oftentimes slip out and they can't recover as well. All right. And so you're saying booties and things, it can never hurt to get them used to wearing some boots that have grip on it. Okay. And the sooner you do that, the better, because not all of them take to them all that well, all that quickly. All right. So it is good. I think as well, and again, we're going to talk about this. Weight is, and we're going right into our next segment. So this will play into what we're doing, especially if they have 3 legs. Weight management is critical. Okay, weight management is critical at all phases of their life, but especially if you have an arthritic animal. And again, like we said earlier, your joints are a function of the weight that is on them. All right, so and especially these animals, like your dog, that already are, if they have 3 legs, and I don't know, Michael, it'll be interesting to see where the amputation was it in the front or the back? Because sometimes there's different problems with each. But but they really, let me just see what you said. Sorry, Michael. Thanks. Yeah, he's using toe grips now, right? And so keeping them as light as possible is really important, okay? And let's talk about how we do it with exercise, right? Again, what I always talk about with people that have arthritic pets is you want to keep them moving. It's our instinct, if they want to rest, to let them rest. But as you can see, one of the hallmark signs when an animal is limping or having a hard time getting around, one of the hallmark signs of that is that they are worse after vigorous exercise or after inactivity, after they've been laying down. Hardest time getting up in the morning. As they walk, they kind of, they warm up their muscles and they start to walk out of it. They start to feel better. So that's really one of the hallmarks of it. So keeping them moving every day. You want mild to moderate daily exercise. And you have to judge how, you have to judge what they need. Some have mild arthritis and should have moderate and move them around. And you'll know by your animal how much you should do. Some, it may mean literally just walking around the backyard, just making them move, walking around, or walking just up the block and back. But moving every day is absolutely important. But you also don't want to do too much. You don't want hard start and stops. You do not want to throw a ball to a dog that's got pretty advanced arthritis when you can play catch with them, in short proximity. But you don't want to make them do hard starts and hard stops. And as you know, a lot of these animals still love to play, still want to go. And so you have your 12-year-old, arthritic lab that will chase a ball until they can't even walk anymore. So you have to monitor their exercise. You want them moving every day, but you don't want to overdo it. Let's see, Mel, that's a great point. I think, when you have so Mel said, I've found cutting the hair between the pads has helped my 13-and-a-half-year-old lab walk and get up from our hardwood floors. Right. Some animals tend to grow more hair than others on their paws, and that could literally be like them wearing socks on the bottom on hardwood floors. Right. And so getting that clipped out will allow their pads to contact more. So now you have that kind of rough pad that will give them more grip just on its own. Very good point, Mel. Thank you. All right, Geraldine. How young should I begin my 1-year-old border collie on a joint supplement? He's just beginning a regimen of running a total of 2+ hours a day. Geraldine, I think there's no reason why you can't start now, honestly. Obviously, I generally, unless there's an issue, do not start young puppies. But once they become adults, if they're going to be active, certainly like your dog's going to be, I have no problem with starting them on the supplements containing the things that we listed before, and certainly things like even border collie fatty acid supplements absolutely cannot hurt, will help their skin. So I think that's a good idea as well. All right. Yeah, I think, again, that was a great point by Mel. The excess hair on the bottom between their toes just adds to the slickness of their feet. So definitely a good idea. All right, so we talked what's in these supplements. We talked about weight management. Let's also talk about some alternative therapies, okay? And at the beginning of the show, I talked about how this was integrative, and certainly, like I said, I'm a classically trained veterinarian, continuing to learn about alternate therapies. Dr. Bob has been paramount in that, just his knowledge of them and the various modalities is amazing. So I've been learning a lot from him over the years, and so I have seen these as adjunct really help. So again, multi-tiered approach, right? Supplements, movement, weight management, okay? And then some of these alternative therapies. One that I use at my clinic and I firmly believe in is cold laser, okay? Certainly some of my clients can attest to the impact that's had on their arthritic pets, Okay, and whoever's not familiar with cold laser, it's a laser that uses light to get into tissues, penetrates tissues. All right, they call it photobiostimulation. But what it does is that light actually penetrates cells and causes cells like the mitochondria. I mean, we could get into but it causes the cells to actually help repair and create healthy cells. So you can really reduce inflammation that way. And I have to tell you, I see it time and time again. A wonderful modality for animals who have problems with multiple joints, even spondylosis, they call it, arthritis along the spine, as well as hips and elbows. And it is completely non-invasive, non-painful. The animals sit there while you do it, and it does make a difference. I've seen that myself in my practice. All right, so it's something to think about. Acupuncture. All right, acupuncture is something that absolutely can help in cases. One thing that I will say is, whenever you are going to seek out someone doing acupuncture, just make sure that they have, look at what their credentials are, make sure that they've been doing it a long time, and that they're really, they've done a lot of different studying with it, because it is definitely a good modality when they're in the hands of a person that knows what they're doing. All right, let's go to a couple questions here. Hey, Janice, thank you for listening. No problem getting my old girl Lacey to move. Paces and under our feet all day long. Up very early in the morning and whining to be fed. On CBD and occasional trazodone. No real difference. Any thoughts? Okay, so Janice, you're talking about as far as what we could add for joints or anxieties or things like that. Just if you can answer that, then I'll come back to it. Yep. Yeah, Maureen, it does help. I've had the laser now for a few years, and I have to tell you, I have seen it really, really help animals as far as just to reduce inflammation. Hey, Karen, how are you? Yeah, Karen, I don't know if you're doing any joint supplements for Roxy, but email me and I can definitely give you the regimen that I recommend. All right. So we had someone discuss it already, and that was next on my list after acupuncture is CBD. All right. CBD has really, over the last couple of years, obviously it's all over, right? But I will tell you that what I see when my patients come in who have been using CBD is that, one, I have seen a difference in their anxieties, and I have seen a difference certainly in arthritic or painful animals. I think it does do well for both. The key is, with CBD, you need to do your research, and you need to get a good CBD. You need to know where it is sourced. What exactly is in it? There is a lot of CBD on the market, and a lot of CBD that contains things like hemp seed oil. Well, that's a good protein source, but it doesn't contain a lot of CBDs, okay? And the CBDs are what actually go to the receptors in the body and help with anxieties and pain, okay? So not all CBDs are created equal, and I think it's important that you look at them, look at reviews, and look again where they're sourced, very important, and what's actually in it. And if they don't list what's going on, or they don't have a site where they, what's in the bottle, then that's probably not one that you want to get, okay? All right. Yeah, Stephanie, Stephanie, thank you. PT swimming. My next point on my list is water therapy, right? I'll get to the questions, guys. So we have a couple different centers around here in Connecticut, rehab centers for animals, and you can, non-impact, you hear that all the time, it's the reason why a lot of people swim in pools, right? Or swim in the ocean. And do non-impact exercising. When you have arthritis, you have inflammation in the joints, non-impact really helps because it builds up muscle, it helps warm them up, it helps them move, but it takes the pressure off those joints. So water therapy and PT is something that can definitely benefit them. It's not for all animals. Some animals don't like it, but the ones that do, I think it's a really good modality to use. Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing is canine massage. There are masseuses who do canine massage, and just like us, they can help loosen up their muscles, right? And that's something also to really think about. Nora, hey Nora, should my 14-year-old Hubble cat be on glucosamine? He is a large cat, Nora. And yeah, absolutely. They, again, and it is a good point. We're talking a lot about dogs because it is something, but I certainly have several of my older cat patients on various things for arthritis, and it certainly can't hurt him to get him on a joint supplement, Nora, and that's something that we can talk about as well. You're welcome, Karen. So Mel, a human CBD used for dogs, 1 drop for 5 pounds for 500 milligrams. So you have to be careful, Mel, with human CBD for a number of reasons. One of which is you have to make sure it's hemp-based, okay? You have to remember that animals are very sensitive to THC, okay? And so hemp-based CBDs are, if it's whole plant extract, hemp-based CBDs are very low in THC, either 0.3% down to none, okay? Depending on its full spectrum, broad spectrum. So one, I think, and we've had some issues in the states that have gone full, legal with marijuana, is that some people tried, their marijuana-based CBDs, and that's not something that you can give to animals. And so it is also hard to dose them sometimes because of the different milligram ranges. And depending on the product, they dose them at different things. Some people dose at dose much higher because the bioavailability might not be as high in their product. Some people have a good bioavailability, so they can dose the milligrams lower. So you have to be careful. And always, hemp-based CBDs, never marijuana CBDs. And there's the thing with CBD too is obviously the legality issues, right? Veterinarians cannot sell CBDs in most states right now, even though it's sold everywhere. And it was legalized nationally, but there's been some pushback on that. So there is some, kind of state by state regulations with it. All right. So you have to look into that. Yes, Stephanie, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. Oh, hey, Heather. No, thank you for tuning in. Hope class was good. What class was it? Listen, I know what you're going through. I somewhat miss the vet school experience. I definitely don't miss finals and exams and national boards and things like that. But it's just learning that much and taking it all in every day to me was amazing. Hope it was a good class. Barbara, my 4-year-old standard doodle gets bowel and cell. Veterinary nutritionist formulated supplement when I feed her homemade. Should I still get joint supplement? Barbara, can you send me the ingredients in that? Chris@earthanimal.com. Send me all the ingredients in that, or I can look it up, and then I'll let you know what else you may need. All right? Oh, sorry, Mel, I froze. I answered your question, so just take a look at it. I hope I answered it adequately. All right, so we've gone through what's in these joint supplements. We've gone through different modalities that we can, cool. Different modalities that we can also add. We've gone into weight management. We've talked about exercise. And so now, what do you do if you have you've done all of the above, right? You've done all of the above. Barbara, sorry, it's Chris, K-R-I-S, @earthanimal.com. All right? So, anyway, what you're doing everything, and it's working well for a while, but it starts to wane a bit. You've got a wide variety of really high quality joint supplements. You're doing some or all of the alternate therapies. Your animal is you're managing weight well, you're keeping them moving, but inevitably they start to get worse, right? It's part of aging, it's part of life. Well, then you can look into adding some of the traditional things, right? Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Gabapentin is something that someone was talking about before. Gabapentin, which is neurontin, has some anti-inflammatory properties as well. And depending on, people in the past have used tramadol and so, the way that I try to practice is I try to use as much natural things as possible. But at some point, if we have to add in things, that's where the integrative approach comes, right? And because the key is quality of life and the key is moving, right? We want them having a good quality of life on a daily basis, and we want them moving around. And depending on severity, some of these things may be. At some point, if you're in really severe cases, you may need to add in these kind of traditional anti-inflammatories daily, or sometimes they'll be periodic. If they had a play date and they're really going to be sore the next day, you can get ahead of it and give them one. The good news is that a lot of these natural ingredients may actually mitigate the effects of some of these other anti-inflammatories, right? Something like SAMe, good for the liver, may help mitigate some, because the liver processes a lot of these non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, right? So the good news is having them on the natural things, one, enables you maybe to give less, okay, which is great. But two, also may mitigate some of the side effects. The other part is, I always recommend if we're starting to get, we like, most, obviously, like we talked about managing our mature pets. We talked about doing, more frequent blood work to check their liver, kidneys, sugars, blood counts, thyroid, things, and in this area of the country, tick-borne disease, right? But that's also important if they're on these other things, because you want to make sure that they're not negatively impacting their organ health and that sort of thing. So I think that's also important. And again, I think you build these as you go, and you add things in as you need them. All right? All right. You're welcome, Barbara. Thank you. William, Chris, as you know, Zenpen has proven to be tremendously helpful for Basil, my 14-year-old standard poodle. And I also find it helpful for my 74-year-old joints. Yeah, Dad, I think, and thanks for weighing in, I think, I really do. I think it's been pretty amazing on what it's done for Basil. And, we saw a pretty remarkable difference pretty quickly, right, after him going on that. And, at 14 years old for standard poodle, he certainly is mature, and so thanks for weighing in. I appreciate it. So I want to go back to a couple things. Questions. Janice, you had talked about for anxieties, right? And sometimes what happens also is, you get this kind of night wakefulness with some of these older pets, right? And I think it's multifaceted. I think part of it is some cognition issues, right? I think they sometimes will wake up in the middle of the night and be a little bit confused, especially after sleeping. They can't see as well at that. Their senses are not as good. So I think sometimes it really causes them to, they'll pace, they'll pant, or they'll get up, really early, and just their times may be off. I think one of the things, Janice, is, and I think I'd like you to email me as well. I may have some, I definitely have some suggestions. I want to get a little more specific information from you, but I have some suggestions for you. All right. And let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Did anybody ask me something earlier if they want to weigh back in that I might have missed? All right. Oh, Maureen, you called already? All right, thanks. Yeah, I can't wait to see you. I hope you're doing well. But anyway, yeah, I think, that's a pretty good broad kind of encompassing way to approach arthritis. And I do think, again, I think if you use that approach, you can really mitigate a lot of the effects and certainly slow progression, which is what you want to do on both accounts. All right. All right. So I'll just, if anybody has another question, please weigh in. I promised, right, a quiz question as usual. So here's the quiz question for this week. And remember, it's good to pay attention. I know I put a lot of stuff out there and I tend to talk too much probably, but whoever answers this first on the feed, it's Janice, it's Chris, Kris, at earthanimal.com. All right. So whoever's the first person to answer this on the feed will win a $100 gift certificate to the independent retailer of their choice. All right. Here's the question. I mentioned this right early in the program. What approximate percentage of dogs have radiographic evidence of arthritis in their lifetime? I mentioned it really early. All right. So I'll let that, usually there's a little lag, so we'll see if anybody can answer that. And if nobody gets it, we have a backup one. The one thing that D, you got it right first. I'm not sure if you've won before. So D, we'll give it to you this time. I think with the disclaimer that I forgot to put on it is that if you won in the past, I want you to, so I'm not sure if you actually won that. If you've won that in the past, I know that you've done some things. So, but I didn't mention it, so this week we'll do it. I'm not sure again if you won, but in the future we'll take you have to, if you've won before, then I'll have you sit that round out. Okay. All right. If you've won, you know what? I'll take the second person. Thank you so much, D. That's thank you. That means that you won. So Nora, 60. Nora Jones, you won. Thank you, D. Thank you very much. That was nice. So Nora, you were you're the second person in after D, so you win the gift certificate. All right. Next week, all right, we're back next week, Thursday. We are gonna talk about vaccines. Okay, pros and cons, different vaccines, what's in them, and different protocols, and again, I think it'll be a really kind of, and I'm looking forward to people weighing in on it. Oh, we got another question. Hold on one sec. Hi, Dr. Chris. Hi, Patty. Thank you for joining. Hi, Dr. Chris. I have an 80-pound high-energy rescue. He's 3. Yeah, I think absolutely if he's, look, Patty, it's not going to hurt. If he's really active, right? If he's really, really active and he is, and he's an athletic, it absolutely can't hurt because it just will reduce that daily inflammation that he's causing by running around, right? What are you doing? So yeah, absolutely. I think that is good. All right. You're welcome, Nora. Thanks. All right, listen, hold on a minute. All right. So anyway, next week, vaccines. All right. And I hope everybody has a very healthy and happy weekend and week coming. And we will see you in a week. All right.